What is up, everybody? I am your host, Shane Mallory, joined by my co-host,
Ricky DeCosta.
Tell the folks what time it is.
Run it back.
Time to run it back. And people, we are excited. The NFL season is right around the corner. What is this, a Thursday night right now? So we got a week until the NFL season.
College football is
Great
back.
first game. Yeah, shout out to the Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets pulling off, I guess, what people would call a perceived upset over the FSU Seminoles.
Or was FSU just trash?
I mean, FSU definitely lost a lot of players to the NFL draft from a very good team last year, especially
Rule
defensively.
76, play like a champion, no excuses.
Hey, no excuses. Georgia Tech won the game. That was cool. Love that they took the game out to Ireland, too, as well. Actually, a high school team that I coached for last year did the same thing. Cool experience for all the kids, you know, going and playing abroad. And it spreads love for the game, you know?
Definitely.
So that's really awesome. Before we get into the hot, you know, all the things we got to predict football-wise, got to hit on one comment. So we're NBA heads, obviously. Love me some basketball. Anthony Edwards, though, got himself in a little bit of some hot water this past week when he said, and I believe it was, I quote, outside of MJ, there was nobody talented in his era, to which Magic Johnson had a pretty strong, response. And then KG, that's Kevin Garnett, a.k.a. the big unit, I believe is one of his nicknames. He just went off on Anthony Edwards in this kind of just generation of players in general. We're not going to spend too much because we got a lot to talk about in the NFL, but give me your thoughts on this whole thing. I definitely have some.
Well, listen, my thoughts are you're tripping, okay? Because remember to like, comment, subscribe.
Oh, good call.
Right?
Good call.
You know,
Good call.
episode 39.
That's why he's here, guys. He's got to pick me up when I fall down
You
sometimes.
got me confused. Episode 40.
Episode 40.
Right?
Episode
the big
40.
4-0, right? So, listen, hit us up in those DMs. Hit those comments.
Please like,
right?
comment, and subscribe.
5-star reviews.
The 5-star reviews.
Right?
Wow.
Come on.
This is what happens when you take
what are you doing?
This is what happens when you take a week off.
Right?
Man.
And
this is what happens.
he's the host. Lord have mercy.
I got orientation on the brain, man. School orientation on the brain. Good pickup right there. It was a nice assist.
But listen, speaking of assists, right? Anthony Edwards, what the hell is he talking about? Now, to preface his comments,
Craziness.
he made it clear that he didn't watch a lot of the old heads to begin with, but that's why
That's
you
a
shouldn't
problem
have said
in and of
anything.
itself.
And Magic Johnson said it best. I don't have time to talk to anybody that hasn't won championships at any level, high school, college, NFL. So already he's like, young boy.
Yeah.
You're not on my level. Yeah. You've done nothing yet in this game, and your talk is a little too much. What that reminds me of is Kyrie Irving hearing, I got Kyrie. I'm going to lock him down. Game one, Kyrie,
He was cooking him.
Yeah.
Anthony Edwards
do we remember
too.
that?
Oh, I remember it.
Okay.
Yeah, I remember it well.
So now you want to go back into that era? Magic Johnson, the greatest point guard ever. He could play all 5 positions. He don't got skill. Larry Bird, right? He was like basically a Steph Curry in his day, right? When he tried to
do
make
a lot
that
of different. Just from the shooting perspective.
Just
Yeah,
from
I
the
got
shooting
you. I got
perspective,
you.
right?
I got you.
Totally
Totally
like
got
not
you.
off the dribble,
Yeah,
nothing
I
like
got you.
that. Just
because
like
his
hitting
game
threes.
he was a
because
bigger
again,
dude.
back then threes wasn't the same type of
correct.
Weapon it was as it's more prevalent today, right? So you look at him. First of all, you say back in the day, has he heard of Allen Iverson? Right? Have you?
There's apparently a lot of players he hasn't heard of. To make that comment, is all I'm
Vince
saying.
Carter, Tracy McGrady,
Charles
and mind
Barkley.
you, I'm not even going back that far, right?
Kevin
Oscar
Garnett.
Robinson, right? Like, there's too many old heads. Elijah one. So he sounds foolish, right? And comments like this hurt him more than help him. And so I'm a fan of Anthony Edwards.
Love his game.
This is a moment where he should learn from and just stop talking.
Yeah.
Right? It's one thing if you want to give Michael Jordan praise to say he transcends all eras and he could play, his skill was so good, he could play at any moment of basketball.
Sure.
That's a Michael
Jordan
compliment.
But you're kind of diminishing Michael Jordan at the same time when you make a statement like that, because what you're basically saying is outside MJ, there's no talent, so there was no competition. Come on, man.
Now listen, And again, a part of this generation, they're saying, oh, we're stronger, we're faster, but they're not accounting for the advancement in technology, in medicine, right? LeBron James spends $1 million a year on his body so he can keep on going.
I know that generation didn't know no load management either. They played 82 games.
They played 82 games. And remember this, back then, the old heads thought to bulk up, right, to be able to endure a season. As the Dwayne Wade, LeBron generation started to tick up, what did they do? They became vegans. They started to lose weight, less muscle and stress on your joints, right? So that you can play longer.
Yeah.
So the education of how to remain a professional athlete evolved as time went on. So now that Anthony Edwards, he could be his best version. And finally, I'll end with this. If I'm not mistaken, Steve Kerr saw Anthony Edwards practice and basically said, your practice was trash, right? And how you train and prepare for the game.
Another guy from that era.
Go look at Kevin Durant and how he warms up and prepares for a game in his personal training session, not even with the team. And because of that, it helped Anthony Edwards take his game to the next level. So you're not good enough to talk with that level of egotisticalness.
So I don't want to go in because it's like I do like Anthony Edwards and I do think he is a young up and coming player and a future star of the NBA. I think I'll more just kind of talk to this generation, and I think it's because between hearing what he said and having coached for a number of years like I have and being around this generation of new age kids, if there's one thing that like kind of bothers me a little bit, it's the lack of reverence for the generation of athletes that came before them. We were talking about this before the show. When I grew up, I mean, it was all about the history of the game. Yes, I loved Michael Jordan, but the reason I liked Michael Jordan so much was because I studied the history of basketball. I looked at all the greats that came before him. I had reverence for them. That's kind of how you learned the game and kind of picked up some of your own moves and kind of learned how to play too as well. Football, the same thing. I remember having an old school NFL 50 greatest players of all time and reading about Jim Brown, but then all of a sudden you fast forward, Barry Sanders is playing at that time. It's just, you can like all these guys, but also it's just like you learn from them. I like basketball now, just like I liked basketball back then. I like certain players now, just like I liked certain players back then. But this animosity, this whole kind of thing with this new era where everything that came before them, like if they didn't see it, there's people questioning whether Wilt Chamberlain scored 100 points in a game just because they didn't. I'm like, it's guys, it was a completely different time. You think a bunch of people just made this up? No, it's called keeping track of records, having reverence for the ones that came before you, learning from that. And yes, ultimately you do want to be better, but you never lose that respect for the ones that came before you. Babe Ruth in baseball, obviously. I mean, forever I remember hearing about that as a kid. When the home run race came up with Mark McGwire, Sammy Sosa, years later, Barry Bonds went on the chase. These guys were all chasing a guy from almost 100 years ago.
But here's the thing. This is the Twitter generation, so they're all about talk, right? At the end of the day, the one thing about sports, you get to strap it up and play.
It's true.
Right? And basketball is one of those games where, show up on the court. If you got skills.
And it was a way more physical game back then, too. Way more physical.
I didn't even want to bring that up. I'm just talking about.
It's just the truth. Football 100%. Was, too, if we're going to be real about things.
But what I'm just saying is, if you are a baller, right? You step on the court, everybody knows. You don't got to say nothing.
I agree.
Right? American Gangster, right? The loudest person in the room is the weakest person in the room. And right now, that's exactly how Anthony Edwards, what he looks like. And if Michael Jordan is your idol, you're not representing him well because Michael Jordan didn't need to talk. He listened, though. Right? It's true. He listened like Kyrie listened.
So true.
Right?
It's so true.
And then he whooped that AWS.
Yeah, and listen, it's just funny because no matter what, it's still someone from that era that every new great basketball player is going to get compared to.
But think about it, right?
It was Kobe to Jordan. Now it's LeBron to Jordan. Who's next? Jordan is always going to be in the conversation.
100%. But think about it, right? Kobe was showing, Booker some of the ropes. He was showing Jason Tate in
Sure.
some of the ropes, right? In how he trained and he studied Michael, and Michael watched Dr. J, right? So like you keep going back, right? Each generation learns from that, and at the end of the day, Anthony Edwards, he's just making himself look like a fool.
Yeah, I mean, it's a shame. I mean, I hope that maybe he comes back and maybe walks it back a little bit, but we'll see. He's catching a lot of flack for it from the older generation. So time is only going to tell. But have respect for the ones that came before you, man, because if it wasn't for them, you wouldn't be doing what it is you are doing. All right? Maybe go watch some highlights or something, too. I still remember the old school, like Sports Century, ESPN Classic, watching the games.
That's also made me wonder how much does he study, right? How much do you study the game? Because Kobe was watching everyone.
I know.
Right? Before him,
Kobe watched Hakeem. Yeah, I mean, he watched all those guys. He learned from so many different guys that came before him. That's how you get better. Yeah. That's how you get better. Have reverence for the ones that came before you because they paved the way. But listen, enough with that. We got a big NFL season. First game next Thursday, okay? We're going to I was going to say we'll start with Rookie of the Year, Coach of the Year, MVP, but let's actually go to the divisions first. Okay. Then we're going to do all our picks, okay?
Where are we starting?
We're going to start just like we did last year, my friend. We got the NFC North. You want to go first? You want me to go first?
You can go first.
Go first? Okay. So the NFC North. Oh, boy. This division, to me, is probably the most fascinating division in football this year because last year, a lot of people did not think it was going to be very good. It ended up being better than people thought, obviously. The Lions were very good. They made it all the way to the NFC Championship. The Green Bay Packers really surprised people. Jordan Love kind of emerged, came out of nowhere. The Packers had a great end of their season, mollywopped the Cowboys in that first round of the playoffs. Almost beat the 49ers in their house, okay, in the divisional round. But obviously they came up short, but a heck of a season for them. The Minnesota Vikings obviously had an okay season up until some injuries. Justin Jefferson obviously had gotten hurt.
I think they would have been a playoff team if they had competent quarterback play.
And the Bears, too. The Bears I expected to be much worse. The Bears ended up, I think, 8-9 or something of that range, 7-10. They weren't far. The NFC North right now, I think every team has their quarterback of the future. Now, the Vikings, unfortunately, J.J. McCarthy goes down. He's out for the year. So the Vikings are going to be my team number 4 in this division. Now, Sam Darnold starting. Who knows? Maybe this is a shot for him to kind of revitalize his career, give himself another opportunity to be a starting quarterback somewhere else. But overall, I'd say they have the weakest quarterback in the division. I'd say they're going to finish 4th. They lost a couple of guys, too. They lost Danielle Hunter, who went over to the Texans. I don't know if they'll be quite as strong. They also lost I'm sorry. I'm getting confused with a different team. Jacobs left the Raiders. He went over. They got Aaron Jones, though, from the Packers.
Yep,
so
they got Aaron Jones.
They have some decent pieces. They have some talent, I think, defensively, but they're going to finish 4 for me. Number 3 is the Chicago Bears. The reason I say the Chicago Bears is Caleb Williams is walking into, without a doubt, the best starting situation a number 1 pick has probably ever walked into the NFL. He's got DJ Moore, stud number 1 receiver. He's got Keenan Allen, stud number 1 former for the Chargers. Now he's going to be your wide receiver too. And then you got this dude who looks like he is going to be an absolute badass. Rome Odunze is going to be catching jump balls all through this season, man. You got DeAndre Swift,
Remember
a nice young running back.
Second best wide receiver coming out of the draft.
You did say that. You did. And again, whether he is or not, I think all the top 3 receivers, I think they're all going to be studs. You've got Cole Kmet, a nice young and emerging tight end too as well. A defense that performed much better last year when they made their trade for Montez Sweat. I'll tell you my surprise right now. I have the NFC North, 3 teams making the playoffs, and the Bears are one of them. At number 2, the Green Bay Packers. Now, while I think the Green Bay Packers could have one of the most dynamic offenses in the NFL, not worried about that. It's always the same thing with the Packers. The defense, and specifically, can you go stop the run? That's always a thing that seems to come up and be their Achilles heel when they need it the most. The Packers have trouble stopping the run. But they have a bevy of talented pass catchers, Jaden Reed, Romeo Doubs, Christian Watson. They got Josh Jacobs now in their backfield. They drafted a young, nice running back who actually got hurt, Marshawn Lloyd, but very young, up-and-coming and emerging offense. I'm excited to see them. I know they added some pieces on the defensive side via the draft, so I'm excited to see, but the defense still is, to me, the big question mark. And I got the Lions right now still coming out and winning this division. The Lions, I believe, are going to be the number 1 seed in the NFC. I think the NFC is going to go through the Lions this year. Wow. They beefed up in their defensive backfield. Okay, they've got a young emerging stud in Agent Hutchinson, a solid linebacker core. All right, if that defensive backfield can just hold up enough during games, there's no telling what that team could do this year. I wouldn't be shocked if maybe they even made a little Super Bowl run. But that's my order of the NFC North.
Interesting. I think that's the conventional lineup. If you had to poll it,
there's a few people think flipping Green Bay and Detroit, but
I agree with you on Minnesota. Listen, I like him overall, right? Sure. Brian Flores on that defense really is going to keep them within.
And
games.
I like Kevin O'Connell too. I think he's
Justin
a good
Jefferson
head coach.
and Addison, they are a really good tandem.
Yeah.
Again,
now, he got suspended too, so that's another thing that could hurt them for a little bit. Jordan Addison,
right?
Yeah,
2 games.
I don't know
right?
how many, but yeah, it's a couple of games.
So, but again, like they're offensively, they're in really good shape.
Sure.
Except at quarterback, right? I think when the games get meaningful, Sam Darnold is going to fall apart, struggle. So they're going to be playing from behind a lot, but I think the defense is going to keep them in some, 1-score games.
But if he's in any situation that he could revitalize his career, I think it's with O'Connell and having the receiver like Jefferson.
He
but
has
I
an
hear you.
If he takes him to the playoffs, he's going to end up with a Baker Mayfield contract.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely.
So now,
good comparison.
Third in the division, I have the Green Bay Packers.
Wow, you're high on the Bears. Wow.
And so here's going to be the difference. The Packers defense.
I like that you're willing to just step out and make that pick. I like that. I respect that.
I like to be accurate in
I played
predicting
safe.
the future,
I played it safe. I respect that.
The Packers defense concerns me. Okay. I think Jordan Love is the real deal. I love their receiving core. I like Josh Jacobs. So offensively, I think they're in great shape. My problem is that the Green Bay Packers don't have a kicking game. And they don't have a strong enough defense. I don't like their defensive coordinator. Not that I don't like their defensive coordinator. They have a new defensive coordinator from Boston College. But he was a college head coach. We're going to see what he's done for the first time. But this is his first time in the NFL calling plays. So those things concern me. So conversely, that puts the Bears in the number 2 slot. Now, here's the trick with that. I think they're going to end up with the same record. Right?
Okay.
And it just so happens that the Bears will have the tiebreaker. So I don't think the Packers are going to have a bad season.
I got you.
Right?
I got you.
But I think they're going to be 9-7 or 9-8. Right? Yeah.
9-8.
They're going to be 9-8.
Always forget that extra game.
So I think I think the Bears just have an easier schedule. Right? So I think the Bears are going to Caleb Williams is going to be asked to do less. And so based on the scheduling, I think the Bears are going to nudge them out at 9-7, or sorry, at 9-8 or 10-7 type of a situation.
Okay.
It's gonna be split by 1 game.
I hear you.
But I do love Detroit. I think they're an 11-win team. They fixed their defense. They're strong on offense. They're strong in their running game. They're strong at receiver. I do want to know how their second and third receiver are going to hold up. Will Jameson Williams really step up and be that big-time threat? But obviously, St. Brown and Sam Laporta, their consistency is going to be phenomenal.
Sure.
Barring injury, the Lions
two of the best respective guys at their positions there.
Exactly. So I think the Lions are set up for success.
Jameer Gibbs, wins. Montgomery.
The only thing is that division is going to be tough, but I think they're going to be prepared for it. My only fear is that they went far. And based on coaching,
I hear you.
So
there's always
are they going to be
regression, a little regression.
Exactly. Are they going to be chasing to get back to where they were and make a misstep? But I do think the Lions finish number 1, Bears number 2, Packers number 3. But I agree with you. All 3 do make the playoffs.
I love it. And that to me is an emerging, that could be one of the better divisions in football this coming season. I absolutely believe that. All right. So we're on the same page, though, in terms of Detroit. The only place we disagreed was Chicago and Green Bay. Both have Minnesota 4th. All right. I'm going to kick this one to you now. All right. You get to start this one. We're going with the NFC East. I'm moving just like a little.
Did you see how you set me up?
I love that you get to go first on this. Absolutely. The NFC East. Give me your thoughts here.
All right, so I'll do a quick rundown of the division before I make my picks. So obviously the Cowboys and Dak Prescott, they're in a contract situation. Listen, the CD Lamb situation didn't stress me out too much because I feel that
They just got the deal done, too.
They just got the deal done. But the
done.
reason why it doesn't stress me out, I think the Cowboys want that negative press to bring more fans.
All press is good press. That's the Jerry Jones saying.
If they did this 3 weeks ago, they knew they were going to do this 3 weeks ago. That's why CD Lamb wasn't necessarily
Jerry just wants to troll reporters and be the center of attention.
Exactly, right?
Jerry knows what he's doing.
But the Dak Prescott situation, I do think is real, and here's why. I think Jerry Jones is saying, hey, I could give Dak Prescott $60 million. He's going to want at least 4 years. He's going to want, if it's 4 years, he's going to want $180 million guaranteed. Dak Prescott is not worth it at that price point. Versus, of that $60 million, I could give Micah Parsons 35 of it, take the other $25 million, fill out the right, go get a number 2 receiver, right? Put Cooks in the number 3 slot and have a legitimate offensive threat. Heck, you need a running back, right? Think about it. If you had
Ezekiel
that money,
Elliott and Rico Dowdle this year is kind of
if you
the
had
plan.
that money, imagine Derrick Henry on that team. Imagine if you stole Saquon from the Giants and he was there with a CD Lamb. And listen, I'm a Giants fan saying that, right? But again, from a strategic football move, Saquon could have been a weapon at a cheap $13 million price point. So I think the Cowboys could spend that money wisely. And they're looking at the San Francisco model, right? Which is, 2 big-time receivers, a strong tight end, strong left tackle, get a good running back and get a cheap quarterback with some good defensive players. I think that's what Jerry's looking at and facing. So I don't think Jerry necessarily wants to spend $60 million on Dak. Okay. So now Washington, I'm high on. I think there's a lot of expectation there. I think not expectation, but I think they're going to be a fun team. I think they're going to put up a lot of points. I don't think they're going to win because defensively, I don't think they're ready yet. But I think they're going to be exciting.
Okay.
Then we have the Giants. The Giants' defensive line is amazing.
The front seven could be very good this year.
I think their defense is going to be extremely strong.
So do I.
And I think the secondary is going to surprise people, right? I think they're definitely going to surprise people.
I like the kid that they drafted last year, Banks. I think he has
out of Maryland.
I think he has legit promise to be a number 1 corner in the NFL.
So now you go to the offensive side.
Work in progress. That's a work in progress.
I like Neighbors.
I do too.
Like Hyatt.
Yeah. Theo Johnson, this young tight end too out of Penn State, looks.
I think he's going to be solid.
Interesting.
I think he's going to be solid.
Sure.
But unfortunately, they don't have anyone to throw the ball. And some people say that I'm not a real Giants fan because I tell the truth, right? But I don't want a quarterback that can only throw 15 touchdowns, right? I don't want a quarterback that's really a running back and he can't run that fast.
He did not have a good preseason,
right? So. That's my feeling on that, and I'll leave it there. Right, I've had my rants when it comes to the Giants, but I do like Daboll as a coach, and I think the GM is on the hot seat immediately because you didn't have the information that Saquon was going to the Eagles. You could have re-signed him. You spent $160 million on Daniel Jones. That was the wrong move, and ultimately Daniel Jones will probably be pulled by game 4 or 5 because they can't afford to have him hurt. Because if he gets hurt this season, his salary next year is guaranteed. Then you have the Philadelphia Eagles. I think they're going to be amazing, right? I think Vic Fangio is going to have that defense competitive, top 12-ish. That's a young defense.
Can't be any worse than last year.
And so, but that offense is going to be elite with A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, Saquon Barkley. I think Hurts is going to reemerge. And so my order will go the Commanders, number 4.
Oh, okay.
Right? The New York Giants, number 3.
Okay.
I think their defense are going to keep them in. So I think they're going to be 1 or 2 games better than the
Commanders.
The Commanders.
Okay.
Then we have the Cowboys. And then we have the Philadelphia Eagles. My big note, only one of those teams will make the playoffs.
Interesting. Okay. So you and I have the last 2 aligned. All right. I have the Commanders at 4. While they have a lot of young, promising talent, they added an Austin Eckler. Jaden Daniels is going to be interesting too as well. new head coach, new offensive system, OC and play caller. There's just too many kind of what-if factors. The Giants, I think their defense will allow to keep them in games. I think they'll win more games, I think, than people expect this year. I expect them somewhere around that 7 to 9 range of wins, all right? So I'll take the Giants. I'm actually going to flip, even though I do think there's a little bit. Go ahead. What is up, everybody? I am Shane Mallory, and this is Run It Back. We're coming back for segment number 2 with my co-host,
Ricky DeCosta.
all right. And as I left off, we were talking about the NFC East. So I had said the Commanders, while I do think they're a young and promising team, Dan Quinn's obviously a very good defensive coach. The fact that there's so many new and moving parts into the equation, I expect them to kind of finish 4th. I think they'll start to show more promise. I am very curious to see Jaden Daniels.
That's what I was going to ask you, right? Yeah. Are you high on him? Do you think he's going to have a good season? They did trade away Dotson.
Yeah, that one kind of threw me off a little bit that they traded away Dotson. Listen, Cliff Kingsbury is a guy who knows how to get productivity out of his quarterbacks. Jaden Daniels, it's not that I'm not high on him. I think he could be awesome. I really do. You see the athleticism, the scrambling ability. I think his mobility will show up very quickly. You're going to see that aspect of his game. The only thing that worries me about him is it's the Commanders. He's in Washington. There's just too many shades of RG3 for me that it just throws me off a little bit. Very similar builds too as well. So only time will tell. But the young man definitely has all the talent to be a successful quarterback in the NFL. Yeah. The Giants, as I was saying before the break, their defense, I believe, will allow them to win a couple of games that a lot of people probably think that they shouldn't be able to win. Oh, and also, really quick, people, don't forget, like, comment, and subscribe. We're looking for those 5-star reviews. This is episode 40. I just wanted to make sure so you don't know I didn't trip up there. But now, here's where I switch a little bit. Despite all the turmoil and the commotion and this is all by design here. I actually have the Eagles finishing at number 2 in the division.
He is a cowboy lover.
Stop it. Stop it. No, and I'm going to tell you what. Eagles, to me, easily the most talented team in the division. Okay, they are. They are the most talented team in the division. The Cowboys, for whatever reason, though, have had their number the last couple of years. And as long as this team, which is currently intact, has CD, has Dak, has Micah,
It's either you love Dallas or you hate Philly. What's
I don't
going on?
like either team. It's not easy for me to pick success for either of them.
You sound like a cowboy lover right now.
There's something about the Eagles, though. Like their preseason, for one,
Jerry Jones?
Not playing anyone there. It's just I don't like either team. You know I don't like either team.
So you love Dak.
And you know I'm very honest about Dak. Go back to the tape of some episodes last year. You know I don't love Dak. All right. And you know I don't love Jerry.
How long have you been a Cowboy fan?
I'm not a Cowboys fan.
Right? Is it because you're concerned you're in the tri-state area that you can't represent yourself well? Do you want to get out of the closet? It's okay.
I'm good.
You can tell America.
Don't even say that because that's going to go a whole other route in the comments.
A Cowboy fan.
Oh my God.
It's okay. We won't judge you. We accept all.
Well, I guess
that includes Cowboys.
Well, fans. I guess we know what song we're using for this one, "Cleaning Out My Closet" by Eminem. So. The Eagles, for as talented as they are, the defense was not very good last year. And by not very good, I mean one of the worst, especially in the secondary. Vic Fangio is a good defensive coordinator, so I do expect that defense to ramp up. Here's my issue. I'm not a big Kellen Moore guy. And as good as all the weapons are that the Eagles have, I don't think Kellen Moore is going to know how to properly use and integrate them all offensively. I also just don't trust Sirianni. And I don't like the fractured relationship between him and Jalen Hurts.
And why are the Cowboys going to finish first?
The Cowboys, to me, are going to finish first is because as long as Dak, CD, and Micah are all there this year, okay? They're playing. They, for whatever reason, I trust McCarthy more than I do Sirianni, okay? Especially with his relationship with the quarterbacks. He does a good job with quarterbacks. And while I could sit there and say Dak, empty calorie Prescott when it comes to all his stats, the way he runs it up, nonetheless, when he plays the Eagles, he seems to have their number. As long as those 3 studs and most of that Cowboys team is still intact, I like the Cowboys to still have the Eagles' number. They edge them out. Now, I only differ you in 2. I think 2 teams are going to play outside of this division. So and I think it's the Cowboys and the Eagles.
Of course, if you're that big of a Cowboys lover. This is how I know you're a Cowboys lover, right? Who in the world, other than CeeDee Lamb, do they have at wide receiver?
Brandon Cooks.
Who?
Brandon Cooks is a solid receiver.
Who?
Brandon Cooks.
Who? The 35-year-old that's like less than 5'6"?
He was good last year,
Right?
man. He's been that player his whole career.
I'm pretty sure he wasn't 35.
Brandon Cooks is a good receiver.
All right. So now you believe in that offensive line?
Yeah, they actually have a nice little young offensive line.
believe
Oh,
in
that's
that
another thing.
offensive line?
Eagles lost one of the best centers in the history of the NFL
And they're
last year.
still better in offensive line than the Cowboys.
I don't know. We'll see. We'll see.
Who's their running back?
Who? Eagles?
The Cowboys.
Ezekiel Elliott and Rico Dowdle.
And that's who you're betting is going to
I told you
win
it
the
for
division?
me. The Cowboys the last 3 years have won. I believe they've won 11 games 3 years in a row, and they for whatever reason
12 games 3 years in a row.
12 games. So there you go. They for whatever reason have the Eagles number. They just have. Okay. They should have swept the Eagles last year. That game at the beginning of the year, I think it was in Philly, that one game where the players were literally like trying to fall down because they were so tired on that final drive and they didn't have any timeouts. It was just ridiculous. I mean, if it wasn't for one little bumbled play, I think the Cowboys can very much go in and they sweep that season series. And the second game, they pretty much throttled the Eagles in that second game. So the Eagles have to just show me that they can actually produce with all that talent. It's one thing to have all that
you're
talent.
predicting 12 wins for the Cowboys again?
I got the Cowboys around 11 or 12 wins.
Oh, such a big fan.
But I have two teams making it to the playoffs out of that division. But I have the Cowboys winning. So
We can make a little wager on that one if you want. I know you're
do
not a
that
betting man.
off the
but,
show. I'm
you
not a
know,
big betting guy, but we'll see.
I
It
wouldn't
could be
mind betting
interesting.
some wings on that one. You know,
Wings, all right. Depends where the wings are from.
it could be a steak, whatever you want. You know,
All right.
I know you don't eat that much.
So now we
Starve yourself.
move over to the NFC South. So we ping it back to me. Okay.
These are picking all the easy.
The
divisions, guys.
NFC South. I think this one's a little interesting. So, okay, I'll start off with the fourth team. It's the Carolina Panthers. All right. Now, while I do think the
Does
Panthers.
Bryce Young look like a professional quarterback and the number 1 overall pick?
I think Bryce Young will be better this year. Will he look like a number 1 overall pick? I'm just looking for the improvement. I think that's all the Carolina Panthers can look for right now. On paper, they seem to have at least gone out and addressed the receiver situation. They got a young receiver in the name of Xavier Legette. Okay. He's big. Okay. He's a big physical type guy. Had a very good end to his college campaign. I think somewhere around 1,200 receiving yards. So you at least went and addressed that. You got to go and give him people to throw to. They also drafted a young-looking tight end out of University of Texas, hook 'em horns, Jatavion Sanders, okay, who is now at the top of the depth chart. Definitely went through his growing pains in camp, but tremendous athlete, speed, size, aggressiveness. It's another weapon for him to throw to. They also drafted Jonathan Brooks, running back out of the University of Texas. Now, he's still kind of recovering from an ACL injury. Reports are that he'll be ready by week 3 or week 4, hopefully. But that's a nice thing to pair along with Chuba Hubbard. Chuba Hubbard was fine as a starting back, but if you can have him more as like a 1-2 punch with another guy, I think that ups your offense a little bit. They did lose their best defensive player, and Brian Burns. We're happy about that because he's now a New York Giant on the opposite side of Kayvon Thibodeau. That's why we're looking forward to seeing that front seven. But yes, overall in firepower and just talent, I still think the Panthers have a way to go. They're number 4 for me. Now, why am I drawing a blank? It's the Panthers, it's the Saints, it's the Falcons.
Saints, Falcons, and Tampa Bay.
Tampa Bay. There you go. Okay. So this is tough here. This is actually a tougher division to pick than you would think. I'm going to go at number 3. I'm going to go the Saints. Okay. So I got the Panthers at 4. I'm going to take the Saints. Now, Saints have a very good defense. Okay. It was very good last year. I just don't know. Chris Olave is like a solid receiver, okay? I don't think he's great, but obviously he's a solid number 1 receiver. He's young. Maybe he kind of makes that next step up this year. They got my guy, the utility man in Taysom Hill, who can always make an offense interesting. One of the better running backs in the NFL, and Alvin Kamara. So obviously they got some guys backing him up as Jamal Williams, who is a decent, compliment to him. I'm not sure about the offensive line. Derek Carr, this is kind of a big year for him. His numbers weren't terrible last year. 25 touchdowns to 8 interceptions, but it was just more so when there wasn't protection, he fell apart. Not really a mobile type guy. He's tough as nails. He played through a ton of injuries last year, but if they can't protect him or give him time to throw, I could see Derek Carr having a little bit of a rough year, and I think their season does ultimately ride on their ability to protect Derek Carr and Derek Carr's ability to just make accurate throws when guys are open. I think the defense will keep them in games. I do think this is a stronger division, though, than it was a year ago. I do. I think all the teams got better. At number 2, the Buccaneers. Now, obviously, the Buccaneers were a playoff team last year. That defense, still intact, but it's a year older. I'm wondering how much longer it can hold on. But Baker Mayfield had a very good season last year. Obviously, he got himself a nice, manageable contract. Some teams take note of what the front office did with Baker Mayfield. More teams need to start looking into that, okay? It kind of worked out for them where Baker was just so happy to get, an extension. But
$100 million.
yeah, no, $100 million. I
think
it's not
be pretty happy too.
It's not nothing, but amongst starting quarterbacks, that's a great deal if you're a front office. It's a great deal, especially for the quality of quarterback that he is. You got Mike Evans. What is he? He's a walking 1,000 yards ever since he came into the league. Chris Godwin's a little bit older. I know they got a couple of other little young receivers. They have Rashad White, who's a nice young running back. He's really their workhorse. They also added from Oregon a young Bucky Irving, who had a very strong showing in the preseason. A lot of reports are saying that he's going to be very heavily involved early in the season on passing downs. He'll be like that running back number 2. If this defense can hold up, I like the Buccaneers' chances to go and make the playoffs again. Okay, so I have the Bucs at 2. And number 1, kind of the team that everybody is real curious about this year, the Atlanta Falcons, wheeling and dealing. Now, their draft confused me because it's like you signed Kirk Cousins to then draft Michael Penix. I guess the theory was, again, let's just not ever have an issue with the quarterback position again. But at the same time, if Kirk Cousins get hurt and then Michael Penix starts and he does really well, you're kind of just stuck with that albatross of a contract sitting on your books. So that's a little bit interesting. I would have thought you just go and draft an edge rusher. Instead, they just traded for an edge rusher. I'm drawing a blank on the name. You might be able to come up with it for me. They got a safety too.
From the Patriots, Judon.
Matt Judon. Very good. Yeah, Matt Judon. So they didn't have an edge rusher on their roster. They need to go get one. Great. They also brought in a great safety, too, as well. I think he was a Pro Bowler last year.
Justin from the Broncos.
He's from the Broncos. So there you go. So bringing more. The defense was actually pretty solid for the Falcons last year. It wasn't bad. So you now have a proven and established quarterback, a backup behind him who's almost the same type of a quarterback, but a little bit more athletic. You got Bijan. I expect a huge year from him. Fantasy people, that might be running back 1, okay? So, Bijan Robinson. I think if having Kirk Cousins now doesn't make it work with Kyle Pitts, I don't know if anybody can really make it work, but I expect Pitts to have a good year. Drake London, I expect to have a breakout season. He's got a reliable. I do like Drake London. I do like him. Let's see. Let's see. But I think he has a breakout season now with an established quarterback that can go and get him the ball. One of the better offensive lines in the league. I wouldn't be shocked if the Falcons wound up with around 11 or 12 wins this year. I like their chances.
So listen, I'm going to agree with most of what you said. The Carolina Panthers, I like Leggett. I think their new head coach, right? He seems to be a future quarterback.
Yes.
We like his process in developing quarterbacks and learning in.
It's not Rule, is it?
No. He got fired. It's like Cannon or something like that.
Okay. It's kind of like
he was the Tampa Bay Buccaneers offensive coordinator.
Gotcha.
So I think we will see a step up, with Bryce Young. I think they're going to be right in that 5-6 win range. The Saints, I do have third. Derek Carr doesn't seem to make the simple plays easy.
It's fair.
Right?
I think that's fair.
Simple out, making good decisions in the red zone. His efficiency in the red zone is probably my biggest concern.
Sure.
It's a lot of dump offs to Kamara versus adequately pushing the ball.
He's got weapons too. Olave, Shaheed. He's got some guys.
Yeah, so I just don't think he has chemistry with them. And so some of that could be from the offensive line pressure.
Yeah.
And that defense is also getting older. So I don't think they have the right defensive scheme. I don't think they have the right defensive coach. I don't think they can do very
And they have
well.
a new head coach too now as well.
No, he's been there a couple of years now. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers now, I think they're 1 year older, right? And they lost their offensive coordinator, so I think that's a lot of change. I think they're going to regress, right? Plus, they're going to play a first place schedule.
Sure.
So they're going to play a harder team.
Yep.
So all of that adds up to be that I love the Atlanta Falcons. I do think they're going to win 11 or 12 games, but I only think one team will make it out of the South.
Interesting.
And that's going to be the Atlanta Falcons. Between their run game, I think Pitts is going to emerge. I think London is having a great year. Darren Mooney, watch out for him.
Okay.
I think he's going to have a breakout year. Simply because he wasn't properly used in Chicago, and no one even remembers that he's on the Atlanta Falcons. I think because everyone's focused on Bijan, Pitts, and London, he will have a breakout year. And so the Falcons will do well. They brought in a veteran presence on defense. They have a strong offensive line. I think they're poised for an 11, 12-win season because Kirk Cousins wants to prove that he belongs and keep Michael Penix on the bench, which will be the best thing for them.
Yeah, because I'll be honest with you. I think if Kirk Cousins if he gets hurt, he goes down, I don't think Michael Penix is going to end up giving up that starting spot if he ends up getting in there and playing. I do believe that. So, but just I hope Kirk stays healthy. I want to see this team at, like full strength. Michael Penix is going to have his time.
Yeah.
All right. So now we're going to start back with you, and this is a division that I'm really excited to talk about, the NFC West. All right. Now we should start us off, obviously, with Brandon Ayuk just agreeing to an extension
4
with them.
years, $120 million. Listen, that actually frustrates me because if you were, again, you wanted to give him
He got what he
$26 million,
wanted.
He got what he wanted.
Yep.
The same contract as St. Brown. I think that was his market. And you just gave him his market. But this concerns me because this went on for too long. You have too many issues. You did not win the Super Bowl. And so when you don't win the Super Bowl, you have to pay your players. You paid CMC like I told you they would.
And still make it.
Right? Yep. Now, Trent Brown, you're going to have to pay him. Right? Sorry, Trent Williams.
Trent Williams,
You're going to have to pay him. Remember, you're also paying Debo a nice salary. Kittle's up next year. You have some defensive players, Travarius Ward, he's up next year for a contract. I think this is Greenlaw's last year. So there's a lot of other players that lead to that team that really contributes. And next year, you're going to have to pay Brock Purdy because his contract is up.
Sure.
So I think next year is going to be a bloody year for the 49ers because they failed to do what the Kansas City Chiefs did, which is trade and move on from middle-aged players that are still highly effective and get younger and build through the draft.
Yep.
Right? And so
You need the combo. Yeah, like
agreed.
some
So,
free
listen,
agents, but
I agree
the draft.
with paying Brandon Ayuk, but they need to trade Debo, right? They need to trade Debo because they need to get younger at that position, younger and cheaper. You need to pay Trent Williams. You need to draft Trent Williams' replacement, right? And that's why he's asking for a contract because you're expecting him to be around for 2 to 4 more years, so you're going to have to pay him that way then if that's the case. And then Kittle is going to need some additional money. I think Nick Bosa is too expensive, right? At $35 million a year. So when you start to add all of these things up, it just creates a bad recipe, I think, for the 49ers. And they're going to have to make too many hard decisions at once versus starting to, spread that out. I think the Rams are poised to have a really good year. I wish Aaron Donald was still on that team. But Sean McVay is a hell of a coach. That defense has outperformed last year. So I think they're poised. Puka Nacua seems to be the real deal. And Cooper Kupp is coming back healthy.
Yeah, you like Puka. You tried to trade for me from last time.
I did, and it was a good decision that I didn't. Kyron Williams, they drafted Blake Corum as well, if I'm not mistaken.
They did.
So they have depth at all the positions, so I think they're going to be really good. I think the Arizona Cardinals are going to surprise a lot of people. I think they're going to be a tough out. Right?
Yeah, I think they're a talented team.
When Kyler Murray plays an entire season, they are an above 500 team. So that means
he's got a new fantastic toy to play with too as well, and Marvin Harrison Jr.
So I think
Trey Benson too, the young running back as well, who's going to be backing up Connor.
So I think they're going to be right, or if Kyler Murray stay healthy, they're going to be in that 8-9 win range, which is outperforming their talent. But with Kyler Murray, it's more than possible, right? With the depth they have at running back, him at quarterback, and now Marvin Harrison Jr.
Okay.
And then last in that division, though, is the
Seahawks.
Is the Atlanta Seahawks. I love their coach.
Seattle Seahawks.
Seahawks. I love their coach in McDonald. I think that he's going to run a great defensive scheme.
Good receiving core, too.
They have a really good receiving core. Everybody remembers DK. Everyone is fancying over Smith and Jigba.
Yeah.
But remember, there's one Tyler Lockett there that is also like a steady 1,000-yard receiver.
Sure.
He just doesn't get the touchdowns.
They got some guys.
Kenneth
They got some
Walker,
guys.
really good.
Zach Charbonnet to back them up, so they're young.
Built.
Yep.
And Geno Smith has something to prove because he had a really good year. He had an okay year last year, so I think he wants to have a bounce back year. So now, how is that division going to fall out? I had the Arizona Cardinals last.
Okay.
Right. Unfortunately, I don't think Kyler Murray will be able to be the Superman he needs.
Don't love their defense either.
Then I have the Seattle Seahawks. Okay. And then I have the Rams.
Okay.
And I have the 49ers. Here's my only thing. I think that might end up being the best division in football because I think the 49ers win the division.
I like it.
Super close at 10-7. I think the Rams tie them at 10-7, but the 49ers have the tiebreaker. But then here's the other thing. I think both the other teams go 8-9. Right? I think that division is going to be super close, and 2 games is going to separate them all season long.
Wow. So you and I are in alignment with the Cardinals and the Seahawks. Okay. I think they both have tremendously talented offenses. Okay. And I think there will be tough outs in that division. And I agree with you. Now, I said last year the AFC North was the best division in football. I think this year NFC West or possibly NFC North, but on paper, I like the NFC West just because I have the most proven commodities, like things that I can rely on. All right. But the NFC North, I think, is coming. All right. The AFC North, I can't wait to talk about them because I think that's going to be an interesting take on that division. But so I'm with you. Cardinals 4, Seahawks 3. But I'm switching. At number 2, now 2 teams make the playoffs out of this division. I don't like all that's gone on with the 49ers in this offseason. I don't like the fact that Trent Williams hasn't been practicing and still isn't signed. I don't know if I think Ayuk was holding out too. He wasn't doing the hold in where he was with the team. Okay. I don't like when guys do that just because, and it's nothing to do with they're doing what's best for them. They're protecting themselves. They don't want to get hurt. But a lot of times you see this when the guys hold out and they don't practice, they come back. They're slow. They're out of rhythm. Sometimes they get a little dinged up and like things just take a little time. Exactly. Just because they're working through what most guys already worked through in that preseason. So I wouldn't be shocked if the 49ers come out the gate and maybe sputter just a little bit. And that slows them down.
Against the Jets? Ooh.
Well, the Jets are going to be, the Jets are going to be a tough team this year. Rob, the producer here, is very excited for the Jets season. The Rams, I honestly think, have a chance to be the best offense in football. They got weapons, man. They got weapons. You already mentioned it. Okay, so first of all, we know when Matt Stafford has time to throw and you give him multiple weapons that he likes. What does he have? Puka Nacua, Cooper Kupp. Okay, this young kid now that they just drafted too that a lot of people are talking about in the camp. Jordan Whittington is supposed to be turning a lot of eyes. You've got Kyron Williams, one of the best running backs in the league, okay? Backing him up is Blake Corum. Where did Blake Corum play at?
Michigan.
University of Michigan. He knows how to play the game like a pro. A bunch of people raving about him in camp. That will preserve Kyron Williams too for the bulk of the season. You have another guy who can get in there, take the pressure off on some third downs, couple of drives here and there, keep him healthy. So that 1-2 punch at running back. They lost Aaron Donald, who we all know you can't replace him. All right. But what they tried to do was replace him somewhat in the aggregate by bringing in 2 young, hungry studs from one of the best defenses in college football last year, FSU. They brought in an interior defensive tackle, one of the best in the draft, and they brought in an edge rusher. I love it, okay? The defense was much improved last year. The only concerns I have is there was a couple of injuries on the offensive line, and I think the key to this team is that offensive line protecting Matthew Stafford. But Matthew Stafford, Sean McVay, all those weapons, a young defense. Yes, I believe that team has a chance to be not only the division winner, but one of the best offenses, if not the best offense in the league.
All right.
I got the Rams winning. Rams and 49ers both make the playoffs. You're in agreement?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And I think there's a chance that a third team comes out of that division. I don't know all of the schedule between the Seattle Seahawks and the Arizona Cardinals, but if 3 do not make it out of the the NFC North, look for 3 teams to come out because, like I said, if Kyler Murray plays all 17 games, all 17 games,
17, yeah, you
right,
got it.
I think there's a really good chance that they can get to 9 wins, and they're on the cusp of the playoffs.
Well, listen, we actually have to go to another quick little break, but we will be right back to wrap up our division picks when we come back to Run It Back. What's up, everybody? It's Shane Maller and Ricky DaCosta coming back for another segment of Run It Back. We move to the AFC. Oh, and beautiful people, please don't forget, like, comment, and subscribe. We need those 5-star reviews on all of our major platforms. You know we love that smoke in the comments. Hey, talk to us about our division winners picks, okay? Where do you agree with us? Where do you
Cowboy
think we were
fans,
totally
show
off?
him the love because he has confessed today that he's a Cowboys fan.
Yes. Now, you've been complaining this whole time. Keep giving you the easy, the hard divisions. I'm about to start what I think is probably the hardest division to pick right here. It's the AFC North. Now, it's no secret. When we talked about this on the show last year, I said the AFC North was the best division in football, okay? And while I still think it's going to be tough, I expect this division to take somewhat of a step back this year. There are a lot of things going on in this division that are, let's just make it say, it's hard to kind of predict, but I do expect a little bit of regression back to the mean. This was a division that last year could have had 4 teams make the playoffs. I don't see 4 teams making it this year. That said, it is extremely hard to pick it, but I'm going to go through. So let me just kind of go through each of the teams first. So you have the Steelers, always a strong defense, okay, but it's so predicated on if TJ Watt is healthy or not, okay? They've somewhat fallen behind the rest of the league in terms of offensive football, okay. You bring in Russell Wilson and you bring in Fields, kind of like a quarterback competition. The reports are that Tomlin has still not named a QB1. I'm going to assume
He just did. He named a QB1
Wilson.
today. It's Russell Wilson.
Okay, so Russell Wilson will be QB1. I'm fascinated to see how Russell Wilson performs. He didn't have bad numbers last year. He just couldn't make plays when needed to, and to go and win games. And the mobility is just almost gone now at this point. It's just not the same player. Fields, on the other hand, great mobility, just doesn't have the great passing. If you could combine the 2 quarterbacks, you might really have something there. So I'm fascinated to see how that. But the one thing about the Steelers is they always have a winning season. They have yet, at least under Tomlin, they have yet to have a losing season. Now, you go to a team, the Browns, one of the best defenses in football last year, okay? They brought just about everybody back, okay? It's not the defense that I'm worried about. The offense definitely concerns me a bit. Deshaun Watson has not looked anything like the quarterback that he was on the Texans since, obviously, the incidents and everything that went down. Can he return to like a semi form of that? This is also not quite the system I think that's designed for him. Stefanski, and you could tell this by Joe Flacco's success in the system last year, he wants a guy to drop back, sit in the pocket, read the progressions, and make the proper throw. Deshaun Watson is much more of like an ad-libber. I kind of want to scramble and do a lot of my own things on a play.
Sure.
So I don't know if it's the perfect marriage, okay? So that team is definitely a little bit worrisome. Then you look at the Baltimore Ravens, okay? Now, Lamar Jackson is there. They added Derrick Henry, but you and I talked about this at length even through the offseason. They lost a decent amount in not only coaching, but defensive personnel. They lost their leading sack guy last year. They led the league in sacks last year too as well. Yep, it was Clowney. They also just recently, RIP, their offensive line coach passed away. It happened, I think, a week ago during camp. So, I mean, it's a horrible thing, and that is not an easy position coach to replace. They lost the OC too in Greg Roman. He's now over with the other Harbaugh brother and the Chargers. So there's a lot. I know they're a great organization. They seem to rebound year in, year out, but I do feel like there's a little bit of regression to the mean coming. And then we have the team that almost everybody forgot about last year, the Cincinnati Bengals. Joe Burrow is back, okay? Hopefully he can have a fully healthy season. T. Higgins is on the franchise tag, okay? This will probably be his final year there. Jamar Chase is doing what they call like a hold in. The reports were that he was going to return to practice this week. He returned, but he is not practicing. He is walking on his street clothes. So definitely a situation to pay attention to. The defense has added some pieces, but I'll go through the rankings here really quick. This is not an easy one to pick, but if I had to go number 4 in this division, I'm going to go the Browns.
Okay.
So I'm going to go the Browns at number 4. As good as their defense is, the offense and just that marriage between Stefanski and Watson just worries me. I just have a feel like they're going to really regress back this year.
Sure.
Okay, I think the defense will still be good, but they're number 4. Number 3 for me is the Steelers. Okay. I'm going to take the Steelers. Like their defense, do not like their offensive line, and I don't trust either of the quarterbacks. So it's just hard for me to put a lot of confidence. TJ Watt stays healthy. Obviously, they might still at least have their other 9-8 season. Number 2, I'm going to go with the Baltimore Ravens. Despite all of their losses and a lot of the questions, I trust that organization. You've got Lamar Jackson. You've got Henry. You've got that young receiver, Zay Flowers. I feel like they can put enough together to still have a decent and competitive season. And I believe the Bengals, with all these receiver contracts that are coming in, will figure stuff out with Jamar Chase. Okay, and on paper, I think that's the most lethal offense in the division. It's the one that I can trust the most.
Okay.
It's improved offense. I like their running backs too, with Zach Moss and a young Chase Brown out of Illinois. I'm going to take the Bengals to win that division. 2 teams make the playoffs, Bengals and the Ravens.
Okay. All right. The only one I agree with is the Browns.
Okay. You're a big Steelers fan.
The Browns overachieved last year,
Yeah.
and I said last year the Steelers were going to make the playoffs, and they didn't. Right?
Yes.
So the Browns overachieved, right? And they overachieved because the Cincinnati Bengals were hurt.
Sure.
Right? And so, again, defensively, they're elite. They're going to keep them in games, but they don't have enough going on offensively. And so, therefore, they're going to finish last in the division.
Fair.
Now, this is the one that's going to surprise a lot of people.
You're going to say the Ravens. I already know.
No.
You're going to say the
It's
Bengals.
Cincinnati Bengals.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Right? Now, pay attention to this, right? Why is Jamar Chase really holding in right now? It is because of what the Cincinnati Bengals did to one Joe Mixon.
You think that's why?
They asked him to take a pay cut, right, to help the team and stay with the team for multiple years. 1 year later, they cut him. They cut him, right? Probably the most tenured person on the team.
They did stick by him, though, through multiple incidents of his own accord.
Yes.
Even before the draft and during
wanted
his...
to stay, right? And for all indications across the league, right, he was a great pickup, right? He's a great teammate. He's grown as a person, an individual, as a man, right? And so when you have a loyal person to the organization and you do not take care of them properly, right? Like the whole CeeDee Lamb issue. He did everything right. He should have gotten paid, right? Joe Mixon took less and you cut him. You didn't ask him to take less again, which he probably would have done, right? To remain with the team and the franchise. You booted him for a Chase Brown that just is a younger model that you don't even know if he's really going to be that good. All indications say he should be positive. But that type of behavior creates dissension in the team. And remember, one Hendricks, that defensive end, he had a little holdout for some time because and requested a trade because he wanted a new contract. So guess what? If we're not winning Super Bowls and you're going to cut everyone, pay me or cut me, right? So all of a sudden, that locker room is not together, right? And
also a notoriously cheap organization.
T. Higgins didn't get paid, right? So that team is all about the money and they'll fall apart. If the Browns get themselves together, I think they can jump the Bengals because the Browns has the Bengals numbers in head-to-head matchups.
They do.
All right? So watch out for that team to fall apart because that locker room is not together anymore.
Okay.
All right? Now,
tell me you have the Steelers winning this division.
The Steelers are going to win this goddamn division.
Wow.
The Baltimore Ravens. They beat more. Listen, I got to tell the truth, brothers, right? I'm concerned about that defense. You guys lost way, way too much. McDonald was a force, right? But here's the other thing, and I talked about this last year, and it's why I was super high on the Ravens, okay? If you remember, my AFC pick was the Kansas City Chiefs and the Ravens, right, last year.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things that I pointed out to why the Philadelphia secondary was so elite was their defensive back coach that then became a coach with the Ravens, and they had an elite secondary. Now he's the defensive coordinator for the Tennessee Titans. They lost a ton on defense and didn't retain anything. They lost McQueen, right? That defense is going to regress. Lamar is going to be elite. I think he'll probably be the number one fantasy quarterback. He's going to run around. They're going to score a lot of touchdowns. Derrick Henry, I think Zay Flowers is going to be strong, but ultimately it's not going to be enough, right? I think the defense will be adequate, but they're going to finish number 2 in that division. The Steelers are going to win 9 games. Like it's just fact. It's law.
They're going to win that division with 9 games?
Right. I didn't say that. They're going because
you're
Mike
just
Tomlin
saying they're
never has a losing
The floor
season.
is 9.
So the floor is 9.
Wouldn't you argue though that that's the worst quarterback situation in that division?
Listen, you have to look at motivation.
Okay.
Russell Wilson wants another contract.
Contract. He wants to play. Period. He could be done starting after this year.
He is going to do everything right to hold off Justin Fields and have the best season possible. I'm telling you,
I think he's washed.
If Russell Wilson does exactly what he did last year, 26 touchdowns and 8 interceptions, the Steelers will win 12 games. Okay? Watch out. You've heard it here first.
Whoa.
And remember, Justin Fields, he's going to be such a red zone threat. He might have 8 to 10 touchdowns just on the ground because of the red zone.
You got Steelers and Ravens make the playoffs?
I do believe the Ravens make the playoffs.
Okay.
If I am wrong about the Bengals, right, and their locker room gets it right, then they will be the number 2 team.
Okay. We move over to the AFC East, starting with you. You know, I think we can kind of just both say this right now. The Patriots are finishing fourth, right? We don't really need to talk about them too much.
Drake May will start by, week 8.
Yeah, they just named it. The Brissett will be the starter, which kind of confuses me. Then why wouldn't you just give Drake May all the reps through the preseason?
No,
but
just
I'm not a head
give him
coach.
some time to learn. Don't let him get beat up, right? Let him come in halfway through the season.
Yeah.
Build up, get physically more stronger. Okay. I agree with him waiting at least half the season.
So we're both at the Patriots. No, I just meant the preseason. Give Drake May all the reps during the preseason then. If you know that Brissett is going to be the starter. But I digress. It's Patriots are 4th. Okay. So give me your order on this division.
Patriots number 4.
Okay.
Right? The rest of the division goes Dolphins, it goes Jets, it goes Bills.
Interesting division.
It will be number 3 will be the Miami Dolphins.
Okay, so we agree there too.
Oh, sorry, excuse me. Number 3 will be the Miami Dolphins. I'm just messing with you. I don't like what Miami did on their
You mean
defense.
the frauds that I got made fun of for calling them last year?
Miami lost Vic Fangio and they lost Christian Wilkinson. That's going to be
their best
big
defensive
time.
player.
They're going to throw up a lot of points, but ultimately they're not going to be able to finish. Football is about
Not be able to stop people.
3 factors. You got to be able to stop. You got to play strong in special teams.
Yeah.
It's not all about offense, and I think they're going to regret losing Vic Fangio.
Yeah, we already know this division because we talked about this a couple weeks ago. We already know where we're going here.
Will be the Buffalo Bills. Number 2 will be the Buffalo Bills. I don't even know who's left on that team. I don't even know what kind of leadership they have. I don't know who they're going to throw the ball to. All reports is that Keon Coleman has looked slow and has not looked like an exceptional first-round talent.
Big dude, though, Massa. Big dude.
So, yes, you can throw it up to him in the red zone, but it is clear that he is not a number 1 option. Therefore, it's only Josh Allen.
Is it clear, though? Is it clear? Maybe it'll be clear when we see some games.
Josh Allen and Cook. So I am not high on the Buffalo Bills at all, and the Jets win that division.
Well, you're a Jets fan anyway, so I mean, it's fine.
I speak the truth.
It's okay to admit that you're a Jets fan.
Aaron Rodgers,
Jets fan, people. He's a Jets fan.
The whole 12 seasons. If he plays all 17 games, they will win 12 games. They will win.
2 teams make it out of there, or 1?
At this moment, 1 team makes it out of that division.
You're out of your mind. So I don't even really need to spend too much time on this because I agree with you about the Patriots and the Dolphins. I mean, with their losses and just what both teams are going through, Dolphins will put up points, but I don't. Okay. How am I going to trust them based on how they finished last year? They're on paper, they're worse. Jets finished second to me. Okay, prove it.
Do they make the playoffs?
They make the playoffs. Okay. They do make the playoffs. I told you, 10-7. Bills got the best quarterback in the division, and they've won the division 3 years running now, maybe even 4. They're the best until they're not. I got the Bills winning this division.
Remember, they should have lost the division last year, but like you said, the Miami Dolphins are frauds.
Shoulda, coulda, woulda. Oh, I said that?
Yeah, you said that.
I don't even remember that. That's silly. AFC South. All right. This is another fun division, and I think this is a division that's going to be tough this year, too. Much tougher. All right, so the AFC South. The Colts, the Jags, the Texans, and the Titans. Okay, so that's easier for me right off the bat. The Titans are number 4. All right. Titans lost Derrick Henry. Now, Tajay Spears looks like he could be nice. They brought in Tony Pollard, too. Will Levis is kind of in like a prove-it season. Can he be a starting quarterback? They lost their DC. Their defense isn't bad, but of all the teams in the division, I think they're the least talented, and they have the least proven quarterback. Okay, so that's number 4 for me. Number 3, okay, this is really tough because I like both of these teams. I'm going to go with the Colts at number 3. Okay, I really like Shane Steichen. Okay, I love what he did with the team last year with Gardner Minshew. All right, they were a dropped pass in the backfield away from making the playoffs. All right, Anthony Richardson's going to go this year. Now, while I think Anthony Richardson has a ton of talent, I still think there's a ton of development to do, especially throwing-wise. I think he'll make his plays running, but I think this is somewhat of a development year. I think they're right in that like 9-8 range, but they're just behind. They finished 3rd. But that's a team that's going to be tough, okay? I got the Jags at number 2. Okay. The Jags, Trevor Lawrence just got his contract. I think this is a huge year for him to kind of just prove. And I think Trevor Lawrence, based on what I saw in the preseason, now again, I know it's the preseason, but I think that he shows up, he shows out, he shows why he was obviously such a highly touted guy coming out of the draft. They got weapons. They're young. Evan Ingram obviously has been a heck of a weapon for them on that side. Travis Etienne is a good, solid player. Young, solid defense, okay? Big year for Doug Peterson, too, as well. They got a new OC calling things, but I like the Jags. And then finally, told you I put a lot of pressure on this team, but I'm going to back it up with picking them right here. The Houston Texans got to be the favorite to win not only that division, they could be the number 1 seed in the AFC. They're that good. Now,
whoa, watch your mouth.
They could be. I said they could be, all right? Now, I got the Texans making it out of here, all right? I got the Texans and the Jags both making the playoffs. I wouldn't be surprised if the Texans had 11 or 12 wins.
So I agree with almost everything. Tennessee Titans are last. I think that defense is going to be strong. I think they're going to look really good, set a strong foundation. Okay. But the Tennessee, they will have a high draft pick last year. I think they'll pick a strong quarterback and really reset that organization. I do not think, what's it called is the guy?
Will Levis.
Will Levis.
Okay.
Yep. So now, I think number 3 in that division.
You're going Jags.
Yes, the Jags.
Oh, okay.
The Jags. The opposite of what you said. Trevor Lawrence got paid, right?
So you think he's going to rest on his laurels somewhat?
I think he will be, right? And so now all of a sudden, ETN, it's hard for him to hold up for a whole season. Last year he did. Can he do it back-to-back years? I don't know. Gabe Davis, boom or bust. He's going to be a bust.
Not a big fan of him.
And then, Christian Kirk, he's going to get nicked up. I do love, Brian Thomas Jr., right?
Yes. That's who I couldn't remember at LSU. That's the guy they got.
Like that. I think
he's a big play guy. He's definitely a big play guy.
They're going to put up points, but, just ultimately something's going to be missing, and it's probably going to be the leadership at the quarterback position. So they're going to finish 3rd.
So you're really high on the Colts.
I am high on Shane Steichen.
Okay.
And in the event that Anthony Richardson stays healthy all year long, I know I've said that a couple of times, they will be a playoff team. He will be my coach of the year.
I don't hate it, man. I really don't.
I think that defense is going to be strong. Mitchell is, one of my top 4 wide receivers that come out of this draft. And
Adonai, he's
Adonai,
solid.
I think he's gonna
Adonai, Michael Pittman, Jonathan Taylor's in their backfield too.
Jonathan Taylor's their backfield.
Got some nice weapons.
And they got a good guy that came out last year, right? Downs, I think, right?
Yes.
They got a lot of good receiving threat weapons. So really like the Colts.
Feels like every team now just has like multiple
I think they're going to be
receivers.
right there at 10 wins. And then, but no, I do love the Texans, right? I'm not going to bet against them. I think C.J. Stroud is a real deal. I think that coaching staff is a real deal.
Sure.
And I think that defense is going to get better. Stingley, Will Anderson Jr., and Stephon Diggs.
Danielle Hunter, too.
Danielle Hunter.
Don't forget my boy Nico Collins, too, man. Nico Collins is a bad dude, man.
You know what it is? I think C.J. Stroud is going to be that quarterback that's going to be like, I got you. What's the difference between Patrick Mahomes and Josh Allen that I talk about all the time? Josh Allen doesn't feed his guy, right?
C.J. Stroud definitely does. He's very good at spreading the ball around.
Yo, Diggs, I got you, right? Nico, don't worry about it. I got to get this guy because he's got a bad rep right now. Let me feed him a bit.
But Nico's going to eat.
Yes.
Nico's going to eat, too.
100%. And so, yep. Texans win.
Both of those teams, though, make it for you?
Both
Texans and the Colts.
Texans and the Colts.
Okay, so I had Texans, Jags. All right, cool. I think that's a tough division this year. All right, so we wrap it up now here with the AFC West. Okay, so.
If you want me to go first, I can power through this one quickly.
This is you. Go ahead.
Number 4 is going to be the Raiders, right?
Okay.
Listen, I like Antonio Pierce. I think they're going to be tough. But at the end of the day, they haven't fixed their quarterback situation. You need to trade Devontae Adams. I get it. You don't want to, but trade him while he still has trade value. You could argue. Listen, if you're going to trade him to the Jets are going to give you a first-round pick, right? So take the first-round pick and move on. But get younger, rebuild on offense. You're going to want to run the ball anyway, so he's not going to want to be there because the offensive scheme that you have is not what he's looking for. Now, third in that division is whoa, I apologize.
I thought you might change this. Do you want to switch and put the Raiders third and put the Broncos fourth?
That's what I was thinking.
It's okay, because that's what I have.
No, the Broncos. You know why? I think the Broncos have to step up. I think Bo Nix is going to play the quarterback position exceptionally well, not like a C.J. Stroud.
I don't disagree.
He's just not going to make the big mistake.
I agree.
Therefore,
I agree.
The Broncos are going to be in that 7 to 8-ish range.
You got guys, too.
Right?
He's throwing to one of his old receivers, too.
But the defense is what's going to concern me.
I agree.
If they are,
and the Raiders' defense actually isn't bad.
Yeah. Oh, listen. So that's the thing. So that's what I was struggling with. The Raiders' defense.
And they got
is
Gardner
be
Minshew too, who's a decent starter.
The Raiders are going to be exceptional. So that is really tough. That is really tough. But I'll put the Raiders 4, Broncos 3, Chargers 2. Listen, it's Jim Harbaugh. He's going to put them in position to win. Justin Herbert. I don't love their offensive weapons. Lan McCaughlin, right? I think is his name. He should be good. But it's a full reset.
Lad McConkey, yeah.
McConkey, thank you.
Just remember, they got a young Brendan Rice, son of one Jerry Rice, and emerging on that roster.
Young.
Yes,
right?
he's young. He's young.
So that's the concern.
Palmer's not bad either. Joshua Palmer's solid.
But the Chiefs win the division, and the Chiefs are going to be exceptional this year. Back to the old days. They're going to be high-flying, lots of points, and the defense is going to be solid.
You have Chargers and Chiefs both making the playoffs? No, just the Chiefs.
No, just the Chiefs.
Okay. So we agree with the exact same order. Well, actually, I have the Broncos and the Raiders flipped. I have the Broncos at 4th. While I do agree with you, while I do agree with you on Bo Nix, he's not going to make mistakes. He is just a coachable guy. He will make the right plays. It's just the overall talent on the team, especially defensively. They lost some guys too. The only difference between you and I is I have the Chargers scratching it in. I have them making. I see a much more physical brand of football coming out of that team this year. A lot of running backs, okay, a lot less throwing, a lot more running.
But here's my thing: the Raiders are physical, right?
So, they are, sure.
So if
Chargers got a better quarterback though.
Agreed, but if Minshew holds it together, but the Raiders got better weapons.
Okay,
right?
I got the Chiefs and Chargers.
They have Bowers? So Bowers and
they got
Adams,
Devontae Adams,
Minshew,
Bowers, Jacoby Myers too as well.
Yeah. They can. If you put Jim Harbaugh on the Raiders, I'd like that better.
There's a reason he chose the Chargers, the quarterback.
There you go.
So listen, we have our division picks in. Hey, production, do we have time to go right into the awesome. All right. So we're gonna be wrapping this up here. All right. We have 3 picks. Four things. I'm sorry. Rookie of the year, coach of the year, MVP, and your Super Bowl prediction / pick. All right.
You go first.
You got it. So my rookie of the year, This probably won't come as any surprise to people. I know a lot of people like Jaden Daniels, but I'm going to go with my boy who's walking into the best situation that a number one pick has ever walked into. I'm going to go with one Caleb Williams. I know there's been a lot of hate and stuff around his name. You watch the camp videos. You see him in preseason. Dude's got the skills to pay the bills, man. I like Caleb. Do you want me to go through all three?
You tell me we go back and forth.
No. You go look at here. Go look at here. Yeah.
I think, all right, listen, great pick. Everybody's going to pick Caleb Williams. I am going to go with one Marvin Harrison Jr.
Okay.
This is a wide receiver league. Kyler Murray's going to feed him. I think he's going to have 1,300 yards and 13 touchdowns.
You want to go with your boy Rome?
Right? Listen.
He's got a lot of people to share with, though, too. Yeah.
But I think Harrison Jr. is going to just put up ridiculous numbers. The Arizona Cardinals are going to be down, so they're going to be slinging the rock, and I think he's going to have a ton of opportunities to put up big numbers. And so I don't want to exaggerate and say something like 1,500 yards, but I think 13 and 13, with almost 100 receptions, I think that's Marvin Harrison rookie campaign.
Okay. All right, we'll go to you then. Coach of the year.
Coach of the year. I'm going to go Shane Steichen.
Shane Steichen. Okay.
And, so listen, that's going to be tough, right? Because they had a good season last year. And so the only way he could win, they have to make the playoffs and essentially almost win the division. And I don't know if they're going to do that they're not going to do that over the Texans. So my fear is that they're not going to give it to him because they would have to win the division over the Texans to do that.
Sure.
But I think they're going to be the most improved team. I think they're going to be a tough out. I think that team's going to put up big numbers. So I really like Shane Steichen. So that's my pick. Who would probably win because of the only other one. No, I'm not going to say that one. I'm going to say if the Jets win 12 games, right? Watch out
Robert Saleh.
Watch out for Robert Saleh. Because everything would be there. Aaron Rodgers, New York, right? It's all about the storyline.
Sure.
And if he kept that team together, right? 12 wins, win the division, beat the Buffalo Bills, that's the recipe for Coach of the Year.
That's fair. But it's going to be D'Amico Ryans because the Texans are going to go run things, and that's my pick this year. He was that close to winning it last year. He was in the running. This year, the Texans take that next step. They go and they dominate the division. They arguably are the 2 or maybe even the 1 seed in the AFC. D'Amico Ryans wins Coach of the Year.
They have to win the 1 seed for that to happen.
Yeah, I'm just saying, it is definitely possible. They are playing in a slightly tougher division. MVP, well, you just said him. I'm going to go with Patrick Mahomes, okay? Last year, Patrick Mahomes had to learn how to win by death by 1,000 cuts. This year, my boy's got some weapons, okay? Travis Kelce, Rashee Rice, Xavier Worthy, big time, big plays. I think Patrick Mahomes is out this year to go, listen, I know how to win last year.
I can cut you off. I agree.
So we're going Patrick?
I agree. Patrick Mahomes, literally 5,000 yards and 50 touchdowns.
Yeah, he's out for blood this year in terms of numbers.
Yeah.
All right.
Last year wasn't fun. He's going to put up video game numbers.
Okay.
I'm just leaving it at 5,050. And I just so happened to have drafted him in fantasy as well.
The Super Bowl pick. What do you got?
All right. So I have the Philadelphia Eagles playing the Kansas City Chiefs. Rematch, right, of Super Bowl that we just saw.
Okay.
Outcome, still the same. Kansas City Chiefs win the Super Bowl and three-peat. They will play the Jets in the AFC Championship game. And the Philadelphia Eagles will play the Lions in the NFC Championship game.
Okay.
The 49ers do not make it to the NFC Championship game. They will fall apart.
Okay. Well, I got the Chiefs versus the Detroit Lions in the NFL Super Bowl. I've got the Kansas City Chiefs versus the Detroit Lions. But different NFC Championship game. The Lions will defeat the Los Angeles Rams to advance to the Super Bowl. And the Chiefs will defeat the Houston Texans. Three-peat Patrick Mahomes. Listen, folks, this has been an awesome show, okay? I am Shane Mallard with my co-host,
Ricky DeCosta.
And we will see you next week when we run it back.